Mufti Farhan just arrived, so inshallah I humbly request everyone to make their way inside. Once again, Mufti Farhan just arrived, so I humbly request everyone to make their way inside. Jazakallah khair.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. يسر ولا تؤسر وتممه لنا بالخير. يا فتاه يا فتاه يا فتاح. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد: إذ قال يوسف لأبيه يا أبت إني رأيت أحد عشر كوكبا والشمس والقمر رأيتهم لي ساجدين. صدق الله العظيم. Respected brothers and elders, mothers and sisters in Islam, truly it is an immense mercy, infinite karam, absolute blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that on this auspicious and this blessed and this noble month of Ramadan, this blessed day of Jum'ah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has gathered all of us together in the masjid, the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I want to share with you a very, very important point for today. It's a little deep, but I hope inshallah that we can extract what I'm trying to leave behind. Today is the 12th of our fast in the month of Ramadan. I share with you an ayah of the Quran from the 12th juz, from the 12th surah. This is verse number 4. So again, today our 12th fast of the month of Ramadan. This is surah number 12, which is Surah Yusuf. This is the 12th juz of the Quran, وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ. And this is ayat number 4. And the literal meaning of this ayah of the Quran and what to extract from this. The ayah of the Quran says, وَإِذْ قَالَ يُوسُفُ لِأَبِيهِ. And when Yusuf alayhi salam spoke or talked to his father and spoke to his father related to Ya abati inni ra'aytu ahada ashara kawkab. That, oh my father, I have seen a dream, right? There's so many things that I would love to share, but the lack of time will not allow me. There are hundreds of lessons that one can extract from the surah. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself mentions the surah to be Ahsanul Qasas, the greatest of the stories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself mentions, right? Imam Ibn Kathir rahimahullah ta'ala anhu mentions, he says, Ahsanul Kitab, Ahsanul Lugha, Ahsanul Anbiya, Ahsanul Nabi, Ahsanul Malaika. He lists and he says the best of the books, the best of the prophets, the best of the angels, the best of the months, and the best of the nights, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And subhanAllah, this is Ahsanul Qasas. This is the greatest of the story itself. So in the beginning, the ayah of the Quran says, وَإِذْ قَالَ يُوسُفُ لِأَبِيهِ. Yusuf spoke to his father to a dream that he had seen. There's a point that I want to leave behind, and there are many things that I would like to share, but this is not the main source of why I mentioned this ayah. But one of the things I would like to say is that Yusuf alayhi salam is a young child or a person who's becoming an adult now, and he is sharing and speaking with his father. Meaning there is a relationship between the father and the son, right? Unfortunately, today this relationship has completely been broken off. When was the last time that we can say that a father actually spoke to his son related to the matters that this child is going through? Or when was the last time they actually sat together, right? Maybe few families, mashallah, may Allah protect and preserve. But in general concept, relationships are completely broken. Especially related to children speaking to their fathers themselves, right? One of the shayukh very beautifully, he mentions in a humorous way to make us understand. He says the only conversation that fathers and sons have now is that when the son needs money and the father doesn't have anything. That's the only time that they converse. So he says, a son texts his father and he says, no man, no fun, your son. So the father texts back and he says, too bad, too sad, your dad. Meaning that's the only conversation between a father and a son. That's the only relationship which is kept between them. So need to grow this more than what it is. So the ayat of the Quran itself says, وَإِذْ قَالَ يُوسُفُ لِأَبِيهِ. Yusuf alayhi salam spoke to his father and he said, what? Inni ra'aytu ahada ashara kawkaban wa shamsa wal qamar. Oh my dad, I have seen 11 stars, the sun and the moon. This is less time, but I want to give you a summarized version of what I want to share with you maybe in some other day, inshallah. So he says what? I've seen 11 stars, ahada ashara kawkab, wa shams wal qamar. I've seen the stars, the sun, the moon. Now a question should come to our minds. Everything and anything in Quran, when it's listed, is perfectly proportionate. Let me give you an example to understand my statement. If you read the Quran from the beginning till its end, you will always see and you will always hear and read that whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the creation of insan, the creation of human being, He mentions Sami'an Basira, the ones who can listen and the ones who can see, right? The ones who listen and who can see. Never in any ayah of the Quran you will ever see Basir before Sama'at. You will never ever recite, hear or see sight prior to listening. Why? Every time from the beginning till the end of the Quran, whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about human beings and their creation, He always mentions listening first and then He mentions seeing. Why? Because when a child is in the womb of the mother, the child is given the ability to listen prior to seeing. The ability to hear is given to a child prior to the child can see. So everything is listed in the Quran in a very proportionate way. Meaning there is no ups and downs in the Quran. Ajib thing. Let me share you with one more thing. Whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the creation of the heavens and the earth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the earth, and then He speaks about the mountains, and then He speaks about the trees and the plantations, and then He speaks about the heavens, meaning the skies, and then He speaks about the stars, meaning going up. Like how you built a house. First you lay the foundations, then you make the roof, then you make the floors, then you begin to paint, and then you put the lights inside, right? This is how you do it. Perfectly like this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the creation. But whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about Yawmul Qiyamah, the destructions of the heavens and the earth, He goes from up and down. He says the first thing, He says the stars will go out, the sun will go out, the moon will go out, the roof, meaning the sky will perish, the mountains will be uplifted. And then He speaks about the earth. The way that you demolate an entire place. So Quran itself, all of these examples that I'm giving you are examples to think. We read the Quran but we never think. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, you read the Quran and you do not do tadabbur, you do not put your minds in the ayat of the Quran. So everything in the Quran, these are just two small examples I gave you. Everything in Quran is proportionate, meaning everything is there for a specific reason. It's not that, you know what, oh, it was just there that the ayah of the Quran is there. It's there because of a specific reason. Now, a question comes to my mind, and should come to your mind, that the dream of Yusuf alayhi salam is kind of a little weird. He says 11 stars, the sun and the moon. It's not from small to big or big to small, right? If it was larger to smaller, then he could have listed that I saw the sun, then I saw the moon, then I saw the stars. Or I saw the stars, I saw the moon, I saw the sun. Why is the sequence of his dream like this? And the answer we get at the end of the surah. And this is still not the point that I want to share with you for tonight. And the answer to that question that I just raised was that this is the exact sequence of how the brothers, the father and the mother met Yusuf alayhi salam at the end. First the sons came, meaning the brothers came, which were the 11 stars. Then the father came, who was referred to as the sun. And then the mother came, who was referred to as the moon. Why are the father and the mother referred to as the sun and the moon? Because subhanAllah, ulama mentioned something so beautiful. They said that there is light and illumination from sun and moon, the both. Both gives us light. The sun gives us light, the moon gives us the light. But the radiance of sun is such that you cannot sit there for a very long time. Yes, you can benefit, but you cannot sit in the light of the sun for too long. But on the contrary, when the moon gives you that light, you can enjoy that light for the rest of the night and not become tired. Nor feel the sense of any feeling that, you know what, I can't take it anymore. So there is love and light that mother and father both gives in their company. But a father's company is such that you will enjoy for a little bit, but you cannot be there for a too long time. But a mother's coziness is such that you may sit there forever and not move from there, right? So these are all analogies that we need to extract from the ayat of the Quran. Now I come to the point that I want to share with you. Social eclipse. When you go outside during the courses of the years in your lives, you must have witnessed this many times. You might have seen a solar eclipse. You might have seen a lunar eclipse. A solar eclipse and a lunar eclipse happens when? It happens when the sun and the moon changes their path in such a way that they cross themselves, right? They come exactly on top of each other in a way that they are passing their paths that Allah has designated for them. And what happens? As soon as the sun and the moon changes their path, all of a sudden, all of the light is gone. There's no illumination, there's no light. And the biggest loss is that all the stars which are around also loses their light. Because at the end of the day, the stars are achieving the light from the moon and the sun. This is something that we study in science, right? All of you. Now I want you to take this concept and this ayat of the Quran and bring it to where I am bringing. It's a deep topic. I don't have enough time to go in all the details of it, but I want you to understand and take these topics back with you. So understand the concept of lunar and solar eclipse. Understand this ayah of the Quran, and let's come to the conclusion for tonight. I want you to imagine the father being the sun, the mother being the moon, which this ayah of the Quran says. The rest of the sibling and the children being the stars. The ayah of the Quran gives us this analogy. Now let's refer this to the aspect of solar and lunar eclipse. When the mother and the father, who are the pivotal roles in running a family, if these two individuals are not playing their roles as they are supposed to, or they're crossing their paths in the way that they are supposed to function, then brothers and elders, mothers and sisters in Islam, there will occur an eclipse which happens in every single house, and that is known as a social eclipse. And what is the loss of this social eclipse? That the radiance of all the stars, which are the children, will be completely gone. The loss of this social eclipse is that our kids will have no more light inside of them. And this is a point to understand. Lunar and solar eclipse are understood by us which are outside. But there is a social eclipse which happens within our houses. And that's the responsibility of parents, mothers and fathers. I remember a few years back, there was a young kid in our area, one of the masjids. This kid came to me and he says, Mufti Farhan, I want to kill myself. I said, are you out of your mind? What are you talking about? I said, I have not seen a basketball player of your age who plays better basketball than you. I haven't seen a person who's better than you. And mashallah, this kid was extremely, good looking, extremely intelligent, extremely everything that you can ask for, this young child has inside of him. And he comes to me and he says, you know what, I want to take my life. I sat him to a side, spoke to him for a very long time, and alhamdulillah, I usually see him again a lot of times. He says, the reason for me saying this, he says, I'm torn apart between my mother and father. I don't know where to go. I don't know where to stay. As one pulls me to this side and one pulls me to one side. Brothers and sisters, I tell you this, not through the life of experiences that I can share with you for years, but the lack of experience and the time that I have, and I have met so many people in my life, I tell you this, that this is the biggest concept which leaves marks on our children for the rest of our lives. Our kids don't listen to us. Our kids observe us. You can tell them all the good that you want and speak all the rosy, sugar-coated words that you want to them. You can speak all you want with your kids. Our kids don't listen to us. Our kids observe us. It's our actions which will impact our progenies forever. And this is what this ayah of the Quran is telling us. The dream that I shared with you, and of course the story of Surah Yusuf is so beautiful. It speaks about so many topics that there is a very beautiful book which talks about 101 lessons driven from this one surah of the Quran for so many things that you can actually extract from this one surah of the Quran. But this one ayah of the Quran, chapter 12, Surah Yusuf, verse number 4, the dream of Yusuf alayhi salam, and the analogy of the brothers being the star, the father being the sun, the mother being the moon, lays a huge responsibility upon us. And I humbly request the parents who are present here, that this is the moment, this is the time that we need to lay the foundations of goodness for ourselves and our futures and our generations to come. We cannot delay this any further. It's enough for us to do whatever we want. It's now time for us to make that change into our lives, knowing for the betterment for our awlad and our children. Wallahi, I say this from extreme passion and love from my heart, that it is time for us to decide for what I want to do. Wallahi, the times are so difficult that we as parents, as adults, who don't make this decision upon goodness for ourselves and our children, we will not be able to, hold our progenies towards wrong and disbeliefs. And this is the time that Allah has given us. The month of Ramadan is a huge time of blessings and barakah. The month of Ramadan is a time to bring forth that change and commitment into our lives. In my Jummah today, I was sharing my thoughts with some of the brothers and sisters, and I said, Wallahi, if this month of Ramadan does not allow our eyes to stay away from haram, then when will our eyes turn away from haram? If the month of Ramadan, while fasting in the month of Ramadan, doesn't allow our tongues to stop from speaking of evil, then when will our tongues stop from speaking of evil? If the month of Ramadan, while fasting for the sake of Allah, our ears are not stopping from listening to haram and gossip and slanders, for wallahi, brothers and sisters, then when will we change? If the month of Ramadan is not bringing forth the consciousness and the love of Allah in our hearts, then wallahi, when will our hearts turn towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran so beautifully, He says some hearts have become so hard that even the springs gush out of waters which are from the stones themselves. That the stones break into pieces and springs gush out with water. But there are certain hearts which never cry for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How hard have our hearts become? How stiff have we become? And why can we not come back towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Is it not enough of disobeying Allah? Is it not enough of life of the disobedience of Allah? Is it not time for us every single day, hearing people leave from this world, knowing that we knew this person, knowing that this person all of a sudden left? Isn't that a reminder for all of us that I also need to leave? Hadisat, waqi'at, incidents, stories and things that we see all around us. Is it not time for me to realize that I need to make a commitment? I need to make that change itself. Brothers and elders, mothers and sisters in Islam, time is quickly running out of us. It's going away from us so quickly that one day we will not even realize. Wallahi, we will not even realize that we see one Ramadan and never get to see another Ramadan. A time may come in our lives that we may never see like this. This is a time and this is an opportunity for all of us. The rest of the days of Ramadan which are upon us, two things we can do. Shaykh Sa'ad Damat Barakatuhum al-Aliyah mentioned something so beautifully from amongst India. He says something so beautiful. He says, one of the best ways of istiqamat and steadfastness is two things. He says, whatever good you were able to accomplish, be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So for all of us from the beginning of the month of Ramadan, whatever Quran we were able to recite, whatever dhikr we were able to do, whatever sadaqah and charity we were able to do, whatever hasana and good that we were able to do, first and foremost, be thankful to Allah from the depth of your heart. That oh Allah, it wasn't me. Oh Allah, it was you who gave me that ability. As I shared a dua with you last week, Allahumma la tahrimna. Oh Allah, do not deprive us of your blessings and your mercy because of the sins and the evil that I commit. Oh Allah, if it was for my evil, I would not even get a sip of water. Allah's qasam. Wallahi. If it was from my evil and my sins, I would not even get a sip of water from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is the mercy of Allah that Allah sheds upon us. Allahumma la tahrimna. Oh Allah, do not deprive us of your mercy and your rahmah for the sins and the evils that I have committed. So the first thing that we can all do for the remaining days of the month of Ramadan is that whatever good that we were able to accomplish, we should be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all the good that we were able to do. Second point, for all that I had planned for all that I had wished to do, and I wasn't able to do so, I seek Allah's forgiveness for that. Be thankful for what you did and ask Allah for forgiveness for what you could not do. These are the two things which will give you istiqamat and steadfastness for the rest of your lives. Whatever small amal it may be thankful to Allah for Allah has given you the ability to do so. Ask Allah for forgiveness for the amal that you could not do. Always ask Allah for forgiveness. And these are the manners that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will allow us to be punctual in actions for the rest of our life. I want to wrap up this entire topic and give the brothers and sisters some time to make dua as well prior to the opening of fast. The conclusion of this ayah of the Quran in the aspect of social eclipse. Brothers and elders, mothers and sisters in Islam, why so many problems and so many issues we begin to see within our own houses, within our own families. Rasulullah ﷺ said, a time will come that fitna will enter every single household on the face of this earth. Authentic hadith. The Prophet ﷺ said, a time will come that fitna and trial will enter every single household on the face of this earth. There will be no house which will be safe from fitna. And fitna will be raised to that level that the Prophet of Allah ﷺ in his continuous saying mentioned that a person will walk by a graveyard and he or she will begin to wish that they can switch places with those who have deceased and died. They would wish that I was not alive anymore. With the troubles and difficulties and burden that people will begin to see in their lives, they will begin to ask for maut, death, rather than living because of the fitna and the trials which will begin to raise. What are some of the solutions for all of us? What are some of the solutions to protect ourselves and our progenies from that social eclipse? And that is to begin the aspect of goodness, sowing the seed of goodness within our own houses, making the environment of goodness within our own houses. And that will only come through the commitment of the parents. It will only come through the commitments of parents. And wallahi, brothers and elders, mothers and sisters in Islam, sometimes that spark does come in our heart. That, you know what, I think I'm going to do good from now. But on the other side, the conscious, the minds in the back, we begin to think, what if I begin to do good? What will happen to all the other things that I'm doing, right? So a person wants to, but they're also held back with many restrictions in their lives. I take the qasam of Allah and I say this. Wallahi, you will never be in loss if you find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You will never be in loss if you find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you will never gain anything if you lose Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that step that comes inside of our heart as a spark to come close towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is the time. Especially for our parents, to build that environment within our own houses. Environments in houses which can become the reasons of encouragement for our children. We know many youths, mashallah, are sitting here who will begin to develop and start their lives with marriage and then children and lives to start afterwards. It's a huge responsibility. But you need to sow the goodness today. Rasulullah ﷺ said in a hadith that if you were to know that the qiyamah is right in front of you, and if you were to sow a seed, then go ahead and do so, that someone may benefit from that. It is time for all of us to sow the seed of goodness in our lives, in our families from today. To make sure that the fruits can be taken by our own progeny and our children. If we don't benefit from that, then our progeny will do so. Bring the environment of goodness in our lives. And how can we do so? First and foremost, within our own houses. Attach ourselves with the deen itself. Making of our salawat. Prayers within our own houses. Sitting with our children and speaking to them and reciting to them the stories and the incidents from the lives of Sahaba radiallahu anhum ajma'in. To build forth that environment of love and affection that a child feel connected to their parents, their mothers themselves. And also as general as a family to attach ourselves to the masajid and the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And wallahi, these masajid are the places where we should anchor our hearts. No matter how far we will go, we'll get pulled back towards the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Masjid is a place where you must anchor your hearts. Rasulullah ﷺ said 7 types of people who will find the shade beneath the shade of the throne of the arsh of Allah when there will be no shade except for the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of those 7 types of people will be those whose hearts are attached. Mu'allaqun bil masjid. Their hearts are attached with the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So within our own families, attach our hearts with the masjid, with the environment of goodness. And completely attach ourselves. And this is something that we can save ourselves and our progenies and our children. And wallahi, brothers and elders, mothers and sisters in Islam, if we don't do so, then we will begin to see the loss of our lineages in front of our own lives. In front of our own lives, we will begin to see this huge loss. We'll begin to see a huge loss in front of our eyes if we don't take the steps now of doing what is right. So my humble and my final request to all the brothers and sisters who are present here, the month of Ramadan is upon us. The month of blessings, the months of mercy, the months of maghfirah, the months of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rahmah is upon us. The time is quickly going away from us.
It is time now for all of us to realize and understand the importance of the month of Ramadan before it's too late, before it's gone, and then we begin to realize, oh, it was the month of Ramadan. Many a times you must have realized you're making salah, 2 rakats of salah, and now you're sitting in tashahhud, and you read your tashahhud, and finally you begin to realize, you know what, oh, I'm making salah, right? All those 2 rakats and 4 rakats were completely out somewhere. And we realize in these last moments, let's not the feeling of Ramadan hidden in a moment when it's too late. It's never too late with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But let's not lose the opportunity of the days and the times of the month of Ramadan. Any good that we start, become punctual upon that goodness. Any evil and wrong that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to leave, let's become punctual upon that as well. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us ability and tawfiq to do what is right. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect and preserve each and every one of us from all the evil and wrong. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us istiqamat and steadfastness in our lives upon goodness. May He accept our siyam, our qiyam, our sadaqat, our charity, our Quran, our tilawa, our dua. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with each and every one of us, inshallah. Just a quick announcement, as we must have heard already, that one of our brothers, the Shura, brother Sarfaraz Sahib, his older brother passed away in Pakistan. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Requesting all the brothers and the sisters in this community to please make dua for him, and so many other brothers and sisters who have left this world. Indeed, they left this world in a very pleasant and a beautiful time, but for the loss for those that they leave behind is sometimes, unmatchable. It's very difficult sometimes to fill the gaps that they leave behind, even though they leave at a time that many of us even wish for, right? Many of us wish for times. I told someone who passed away, he said, one of the brothers in Masjid Noor, I met him, his younger brother had passed away. He said, I always wish that I also pass away in Ramadan, right? So these are the desires for many, but those who leave, they leave behind a gap for many that sometimes it cannot be filled. So we must ask their family members for dua, for sabr and patience as well. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give all of us strength and ability to do what is right, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Subhanakallah wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.